Hi, my name is Jackie Hurtado, and I'm going to be talking about my term paper and the context that I chose to elaborate and evaluate, which is going to be targeted advertisements. And I just want to dive into it right away and just state the tactics that I use that are typically associated with targeted advertisements. And I included sex appeal, warmth appeal, and fear appeal. So now I want to go into the sex appeal. And the sex appeal is targeted towards specifically men. And the reason why I am saying this is because a study was done called Sex Appeal in Advertising, What Consumers Think, done by Sukanlaya Sawang in 2010. And she found that men believed using sexual content was more advertising effective than for women. And so that's why I feel confident saying that the sexual appeal is in targeted advertisements that are targeted towards men. And so the sex appeal is meant for people that are sensation seekers, and Gas Insider defines sensation seekers as people that are more receptive to sexual imagery at all levels. And so I wanted to now dive into my examples, and the examples that I used were two pictures from advertisements by Carl's Jr. from the late 2000s and the early 2010s. And these are the two examples. There are these two beautiful, voluptuous women that are being shown advertising Carl's Jr. food. And the reason why I chose Carl's Jr. and the reason why I could say that this is a sexual appeal for a targeted audience is because of the evidence that I found in a study called How to Get Kissably Close, examining how advertisers appeal to consumers' sexual needs and desires. And so in this specific study, the authors, Tom Reichard and Jacqueline Lambiase, from their study in 2003, said that advertising also involves communicating the utility of the product in question, the outcomes that can be expected by using the product. And so this shows the outcomes that can come to the audience, the targeted advertisement towards the audience. And so this shows that the men who are eating Carl's Jr. could be exposed to women like this. They could be associated with women like this. Or it could show a different demographic for women. Women who eat Carl's Jr. could say, now I feel like these sexy women in the commercials. And now I'm like one of these beautiful women that can do whatever they want. They can eat whatever they want and still look the way they do. But for the sake of the male audience, this is what they're getting from it. They are getting these sexy women who are advertising their favorite food. And so that's why this sex appeal works so well for the targeted audience. And now I'd like to go into my warmth appeal. And so the warmth appeal's targeted audience is going to be a family, somebody that's family oriented, somebody that needs a family, or somebody that's maybe missing their family. They haven't seen them in a while, maybe they're away, something along those lines. And so Gas Insider define it very well by stating that it's the feeling sentimental or nostalgic about life. And so that definition was very important to me because I applied that to an article that I found that deals with aesthetics and how aesthetics use perception in order to display a warmth appeal. And so the article that I used was The Utilization of Aesthetics in Television Advertising from 2013 by Ezekiel S. Asama, Leo O. N. Edigo, and Comfort A. Ogwo. And they state that the perception of forming a mental image or impression of stimuli or object The process of forming a mental image or impression of a stimuli or object. Advertising creates pictures on the minds of the people. And so this was very, very impactful because of the example that I used, which was a Marie Callender's commercial. And it's her chicken pot pie commercial from 2004. And a quote from the commercial is, "Nobody ever indulged just like grandma." And the commercial portrays grandma cooking, building forts, making hot chocolate, giving candy, things that make you feel comfortable, like you're at home, that you're in the safety of grandma's care. And so that is the mental picture that the warmth appeal creates for their targeted audience, which is somebody who loves their family, somebody who is very family oriented, somebody who maybe has never had a family, who needs that feeling, or somebody that does have a family, but they're missing them. They don't have that feeling with them, and so they turn to these advertisements and this product to fulfill that need or desire. It makes them feel seen, validated, because this is the aesthetic that they're looking for at the moment. And that's why this targeted audience, and that's why this appeal works so well. That's why this appeal works so well for this targeted audience. And so I'd like to now move on to my fear appeals. And the fear appeal is a tactic that's targeted for vulnerable audiences, for people who could be on the edge of a decision, maybe very impressionable, maybe under peer pressure. And so for the example that I used, I wanted to use the real cost advertisements. And the real cost advertisements were typically geared towards younger viewers. They were seen on Teen Nick, on Nickelodeon, on ABC Family, on a lot of platforms where young viewers were going to be present. And so I wanted to bring in the idea of fear control and danger control. And so Gas Insider defined danger control as concentrating on constructive ways of reducing a threat, and fear control is the denial, avoidance, or panic when being presented with a fear appeal. And so I use the real cost advertisements. And these are two of the advertisements: a beautiful woman with rotting teeth and the depiction of what nicotine would look like if it were a living creature. And so I wanted to include the article that I found by Homer E. Spence and Reza Moinpour from 1972, and they stated that communications using fear appeals are designed to stimulate anxiety in an audience with the expectation that the audience will attempt to reduce this anxiety by adopting, discontinuing, or avoiding a specified course of thought or action. And so the fear control and danger control is going to be the adopting, continuing, discontinuing, or avoidance that Spence and Reza mention. And so that's why these targeted audiences, being young people, are so susceptible to a fear appeal and how they can enact danger control and fear control. And that's why they work so well. And so with that, I just want to briefly go over what I learned. And what I learned with, things like sex appeal is these things don't work everywhere. Here, they work very well, but you could take it to another culture, another country, and it could not work at all. Or like warmth appeal, it works so well for us because our country is they value the idea of a family, the nuclear family. That was a big idea back then. It still is. And so that's why family-oriented advertising is so valuable and so effective. And for the fear appeal, these young audiences and these specific advertisements work so well because of the vulnerable people that are watching them. And these things are very interesting that I found. And these things are things that I want my audience to think about as well. So thank you for